everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Thalia and I'm a stay-at-home mommy of two. So if you guys haven't already noticed, I have not uploaded a video in quite a while. So the reason why I haven't uploaded a video in such a long time is because Benjamin recently started school. Everything has just been so hectic, and seriously, we're just barely starting to get into the whole routine of school. I thought Benjamin was gonna take it a lot harder than anyone in the family, and it turns out it was a lot harder on me. But another very important reason why I haven't uploaded a video in such a long time is because Benjamin has finally been diagnosed with autism. It is one of the things that I have been waiting for what seems like forever. And although I always knew that he had autism, hearing it from a doctor was just like, if you guys don't know what autism is, which I'm sure a lot of you do, since there's been more and more awareness to what autism is, but if you don't already know, autism is a neurological and developmental disorder that affects the way a child learns to communicate with his or her peers. And one thing that many people don't know about autism is that it's a spectrum. Meaning, what one kid with autism might have, symptom-wise, another kid with autism might not have. All of the children on the autism spectrum are completely different, yet pretty similar. And the way that I like to look at this is by looking at a color spectrum. Some colors are pretty similar, like the blues are obviously cool colors, the reds and yellows are obviously warm colors. But besides them being cool and warm colors or in between, it's that between those, they're completely different. Like one might be, maroon while the other one is bright red. One might be teal while the other one is baby blue. They're all completely different. And that's the way that I like to look at the autism spectrum. Some kids may share very similar symptoms while the others don't. So with that being said, Benjamin's neurologist decided to diagnose him with level 2 autism, which is intermediate. So level 2, which is what Benjamin has, he is what a more milder case of autism. He is not nonverbal, but he definitely lacks speech and communication. And along with that, he does still have high level or high symptoms of what an autistic child may look like. So Benjamin lies in between, and I agree with it. He used to be nonverbal until the age of 3 when he started saying his first word. Now he's, like I said, he's not nonverbal, but he definitely lacks speech. His teacher has told me that he does not communicate with any of his peers. He is to himself, which is a common characteristic with autistic children. They are more to themselves. Of course, like I said, it's a spectrum. You might have a child with autism, or you might know someone with autism that they're very social, and that's okay. That's their autism. In this video, let's say I'm just talking about Benjamin's autism. Like I said, the spectrum is huge, and this is his. So basically, yes, he has hard time communicating. And speech therapy has been such a difficult experience, yet so rewarding. It has helped him out tremendously. And like I said, we have our moments when it does not go the way we would like. Along with his autism, he does have some behavioral issues. which include, you know, having a short temper. He gets frustrated really quickly, and it ties in with his autism and lack of communication. You know, because he can't communicate the way a neurotypical child can, he gets frustrated really, really easily, which leads to screaming and crying. That's his way of communicating, telling me that he's upset. But in the outside world, people are not going to put up with that, you know. So we're trying to teach him to learn other ways to express himself as to why he's mad, why he's frustrated, you know. Tell us why, basically, you know. So a lot of people have asked me, how did you know that Ben had autism? And honestly, I knew that he had autism ever since he was a baby. I know that sounds absolutely crazy. I've had family members tell me, you're insane, you have too much time on your hands, you're reading too much on the internet, he's fine, you know. But as a mother, you just know when there's something different about your child, you know. I want to say maybe around 4 months I started suspecting that he was different. Not necessarily autism, because I was very ignorant back then. I was not aware about what autism was. So starting from 0 to 4 months, he was born at 37 weeks, which is considered full term. But I have a friend who had her son literally 2 weeks after I had Ben, and I did notice that he would reach his milestones a lot faster than Benjamin would. And you know, I thought, you know, all kids are different. Kids aren't cookie cutters, you know. But I did notice that Ben, he would reach his milestones a little bit later. He was a little bit behind all of the time. He would rarely smile. So I would smile at him and he wouldn't respond, you know, and that's very typical for a child with autism. I used to call him a grumpy baby because I felt like he was always mad, you know, like he would smile on occasion, but it was very rare. He didn't laugh until he was 4 months old, which by then, you know, your baby should already be laughing at everything. And getting him to smile was really, really hard. Reading my facial expressions was probably like confusing to him. So that was one of the things. Another thing is he was always orally fixated with things, always. All kids at, you know, the baby stages, that's how they discover things, is through their mouths, touch, you know, that's like sensory seeking. But with him, it was completely different. He always needed things in his mouth. He didn't drop the pacifier until he was like, I want to say 13 or 14 months. And on top of that, he had, I think they call it pica or P-I-C-A, which is like, they like to chew on things that aren't food, like sand, mud, you know, like dry, like the wall, you know, like wall chipping, like paint, you know. He was always biting on the wall corners, like trying to get like the paint off the walls. He was always sticking mud in his mouth, sand, you know, it was pretty bad. And he did not, like I said, with him and his milestones, he didn't walk until he was 15 months. He could walk like holding my hand or holding onto furniture, but he did not walk by himself until 15 months. At 18 months, that's when I started noticing him doing like really different things, you know. Like he used to be obsessed with cars. Like his car obsession was insane. And basically what he would do is he would line up his cars, like from little to biggest. He wouldn't play with them like, oh, they're driving. No, that's all he would do. He would line them up. Another symptom is they do not respond to their name. At 18 months, your child should respond to his or her name, and Benjamin did not do that. So around his 18th month mark, that's when I started noticing him doing little things like that, like not responding to my name, you know, lining up his toys a lot. He still was not talking, which is like the major thing. Like he should already be saying mommy, daddy, you know, milk, maybe even making 2-word sentences. And he just wasn't. And I pretty much had to guess all the time like what he needed. So I would always see autism commercials, and I felt like maybe Ben was on the spectrum. I could relate so much to what they were saying. And one day he was playing in particularly in the living room with his cars, and I noticed he was flapping his hands. I went to YouTube and I googled, I searched something along the lines of like 18-month-old with autism, and when I looked at the video, I was in complete shock because I was like, that is Benjamin right there. And I remember talking to my parents, and I talked to my husband and I told him, I think Benjamin is autistic. And they were like, no, you're crazy, you know, like he's fine. Basically, they didn't think Benjamin had autism. They thought that I had too much time on my hands.
Yeah.
So I remember taking him to a checkup, and even the doctor was like, no, he doesn't have autism, he's fine. Like, he's looking at me in the eye. But like, whenever she mentioned that he's looking at me in the eye, I remembered that like, he doesn't look at everyone in the eye. To this day, he has a hard time looking at people in the eye. Until, you know, I went home and I realized, hey, he doesn't look at people in the eye, you know? So my mom had gone with me to that checkup, and she told me, see, the doctor said he's fine. And you know what? I thought, you know, maybe they're right. Maybe I am overanalyzing things. Maybe I do have way too much time on my hands. So I kind of just like put it in the closet, and I didn't think much of it. I try to let it go as much as possible, but that little voice in my head was always telling me, your son has autism. So basically, at his 3-year checkup, his doctor asked me how was his communication, and I told her that he was still having a hard time, that he still basically just said 3 words, which was, what's that, and look. That was literally the only 3 words that I can remember that he would say perfectly fine. And she told me, well, how about we put him in speech therapy? And I thought, you know what, yeah, let's go for it. But it wasn't until he was turning 4 years old when he finally received the speech therapy. And ever since then, it has been, like I said, it has been great. We have our ups and downs, and that's totally fine. I feel like every family has ups and downs, even people whose kids are neurotypical. You know, like, look at Penelope. She is the most neurotypical child I have ever met. And I am currently having my ups and downs with her. She is 2, the terrible 2s, it's insane, you know? Other symptoms that a child with autism might have are sensory related problems. For instance, he does not like the vacuum. Instant loud noises can be overwhelming for him. So every time I turn on the vacuum, I do a countdown, and that like lets him know that, okay, this thing is about to turn on, I need to cover my ears. So recently, I just had a meeting with the special education coordinators at Benjamin's school, and which basically was like a questionnaire to like find out if Benjamin does need special education, which I'm hoping he does, because I feel like that would be a big help for him. And after the meeting, the head I guess boss of the whole meeting, he was walking me out to the front office, and he told me, hey, can I give you some advice? And I told him, you know, like, sure, why not, you know? I'm sure he knows more about autism than I do. And he told me to basically just not give up, you know? And he told me, my son's autistic and he's graduating high school, you know? And like, that was honestly like really emotional. Okay, I told myself I wouldn't cry, but it gave me hope. So even though we just started this autism journey with Benjamin, it has been a long road, these 5 years of his life, because I just wish that I could have helped him sooner. One of my main suggestions, if you feel like your child might have autism, is to never give up. Even if people put you down, even if people think you're overanalyzing things, just never give up. Keep doing research. If you have to change pediatricians, do it, you know, as long as your child gets help. I wish I could have helped Ben sooner and listened to my gut, because the sooner you diagnose your child, the sooner they can get help. Because the older they get, it gets a little bit more difficult to help them, just because they've been living with these like routines that are going to be very hard to break. One thing that I love about Benjamin having autism, besides it making him such a unique little boy, is the fact that he has taught me more than I will ever teach him. And I know that is very cliche to say, but it is like 1000% true. Like, I cannot express how much this little boy back there has taught me about him without even saying a word. Basically, I love him so much. I'm sorry. I love him so much, and I wouldn't change him for the world. I know there are times that can be very, very difficult. We might have some bumpy roads along the way of helping him, you know, thrive in this crazy world that we live in. But I am not losing hope, and I'm going to do the best that I can to help him out. In the moment, it might be overwhelming, but in the end, it's so rewarding, you know, because you're helping them. Like I said, you're trying to help them out live in this crazy world that we live in, because they live in their own world. And you know, when he becomes an adult, he has to learn how to step out of his world into the world that we live in. And that's my main goal. I don't want to change anything about him at all. Basically, I just want to help him thrive without having too many difficulties. But he will always know that no matter what, he can come to me for help. But anyways, you guys, that has been the reason why I haven't uploaded a video in such a while. So we're finally getting into the whole like going to school, picking him up routine. It's been a little hard, but we're finally getting the hang of it. And if you guys are interested in like a new morning routine or anything like that, leave me a comment down below and I'll totally do one. Hi, Ben.
Hi, Mommy.
He loves playing Super Mario 3D World. That's his favorite. That's what he's playing right now. And he's so good at it too. It's crazy. But yeah, you guys, I hope that I kind of helped anyone out that might think their child has autism, is on the spectrum. And like I said, one of my biggest tips to give anyone that is going through this journey is to just never give up and to always look at the light at the end of the tunnel. You know, things will get difficult, but in the end they're rewarding, and in the end things will get better. That is for sure. And like I said, never give up, always follow your gut, and never stop loving your child. Autism isn't something horrible. It is not something bad. It's not something you should be ashamed of. You know, if your child is getting diagnosed, it can be overwhelming for those that did not expect your child to have autism. But in the end, they're still your child, you know? They're gonna continue being them for the rest of their lives. And like, we just have to learn to help them and to love them no matter what. And that's what I've always had with him. I always loved him. I will always love him. Even with his little quirks and when he's screaming his head off because Mario keeps dying or something like that, you know? And Ben, I love you.
I love you.
Oh, don't be sad. He's sad because it died. Are you sad because it died? Aww. It's okay. Say bye, phone.
Bye, phone.
Bye, you guys. I'll see you all next time. Oh, God.